What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mash and Drum. I am Jason C, and we are here, not in the whiskey room, we're here at Watershed Distillery with Greg Lehman and Dimmick. We're going to be tasting through some Watershed Bourbon today. Really exciting. They've been working for a pretty long time. When did you guys open?
We started in 2010. That's why I have all the gray hair.
2010, yeah. That's what happens That's what happens when you open a distillery.
Right. My beard is white now. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're one of the original founders, correct?
Right.
Correct. And what do you do for Watershed?
I work kind of with our sales team, marketing, production. I'm here.
And does a little bit of everything.
I play in bourbon barrels all day.
Yeah. And she's a turkey head like I am, so total turkey head.
Yeah.
She used to work at Wild Turkey, which is awesome. Yeah. So what we're going to do is Watershed went through a little bit of a transition with their mash bill, and now their stuff is really starting to come of age. They've released some single barrels this week, just here in Ohio, out in all throughout Ohio, right?
Yeah,
all throughout
the state. Yep.
All right, all throughout the state. So we're going to be trying some of these today and seeing how they are. I'm really excited. I haven't really tried some of the newer Watershed stuff, so this should be really fun for all of us. But before we dive in, tell us a little bit about the distillery, why you started it. I know you're an Ohio State guy.
Right.
Was this in the plan? Like, how did it start?
You know, a lot goes into starting it, and there's all these different threads that got us where we are today. And when people ask, like, did you plan on being where you are now? No, I mean, we planned on trying to keep the lights on and make some good bourbon and make some gin and make some vodka. And we didn't really know what that looked like at the time. And I remember, you know, when we were first starting out, people asking us like, well, why are you starting in Ohio? Isn't it hard to do business there? Why don't you go out, you know, to the western states where it's more open with distilling? And you know, our answer was always like, we grew up here. We're like, we want to bring it to Ohio. We want to do it here in Ohio with around the people that we know. And
I mean, the name Watershed is built around community.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the big part of it.
100% right. And when I look at where we are today, it's because of the Columbus community and the Ohio community in a whole. Mm-hmm. But so much support here locally from when we started in 2010 and had our gin and vodka on the shelf to, you know, releasing our bourbon in 2012. It was young bourbon, and people kind of got behind it and said, all right, there's something here. And it's progressed along the way. And, you know, it's fun to look back now in our 11th year and see how the bourbon tastes and just people's reaction to it and see how excited they get. And, you know, bringing the state in here and tasting through these single barrels and watching their excitement as we're going through the rick house or through the warehouse, like tasting different barrels, and they're like, this is amazing, this is great. And so it's definitely a proud moment.
And it's always amazing how, you know, when you have even sister barrels that are right next to each other can taste completely different.
Right.
So I'm sure when you're going through, especially for a young distillery, when you're seeing now as your stuff comes of age and the different profiles that you guys are capable of, right? It's almost like, wow, we made that. It's like, well, let's. How do we make this all the time?
Right. And then you scratch your head and you're like, all right, so 4 years ago, what like, you know, you're looking back through records, you're like,
what the hell did we do to make this
magic? Yes.
Yeah. So, and why don't you talk about a little bit about the grain recipes and kind of the transitions a little bit?
Oh boy. So, well, I feel like I'm telling your story because I've been here for a little over a year. But at Watershed Distillery, we actually started out with, hopefully I get this right, it was a 66-gallon original pot still.
66-gallon pot still.
66-gallon pot still. And today we actually have a 660-gallon pot still. But our bourbon recipe actually transitioned back around 2017 to when we got our head frame, so a column still. So we moved from a batch 5-grain recipe to through a lot of, you know, going from actually in the early days milling our own grain right here on site and having a coarse grain, a coarse ground bourbon, to moving to a fine grain, high rye, column still bourbon.
Yes, the fine ground worked better with the column still, and we started doing flavor profiles, really digging into it at that point, and fell in love with the 3-grain, and so we started transitioning. And it's when I know, you know, you're in the industry. When you make whiskey and you put it in a barrel, you gotta wait 4 years before you. I mean, you taste it along the way and you see it coming, but it's still like
it's a waiting game.
Yes.
But
And-
I mean, I got a chance to taste your stuff when you were using the 4 and 5 grit. So they included some spelt in there,
Right.
some wheat. So it was a pretty, different type of mash bill than anything I had, or anything that you would normally find on the shelf. It was really different. Obviously, it was on the younger side. But I was like, okay, there's something here. But as they transition now to their 3-grain mash bill, so now they're using your traditional corn, rye, and barley, but they're doing a high rye. They're at 22% rye, which I think is awesome because I love high rye bourbons, especially with that nice spice on the end. So let's taste the. We're gonna go from left to right here. First, we're gonna taste what we have here from Watershed, which is just their standard Watershed bourbon here in Ohio. I haven't had this in a while, so I'm excited to get.
All right,
this
I'm
one.
excited. No pressure.
No pressure. I'm just trying it with you guys the first time here. So what's the proof on these?
90 proof,
90 proof.
small batch, non-chill filtered.
So Greg, you had no idea how involved was this going to be, and your distiller was he one of your partners in opening the place?
No, so our distiller, we're really excited to have him on board. He was at 1792 Barton, and then opened Luxco when they got going. He was one of their head distillers there.
Oh, so they got a hell of a pedigree there for a distiller.
And we're excited to have him on board, and he's doing some good things here. So.
That's awesome. Well, first thing that kind of blasts me out of the glass is this really nice, like, honey graham cracker type note I'm getting. And what do you look for when you? I know you love turkey, so it's not. Are you looking for it to taste like turkey?
She's going through our barrels. Not this one. Not this one. Oh,
she's like,
closer,
this one
closer.
This one smells like rare breed. I'll take that one.
So the different batches, and we actually handwrite the batch number on each of our bottles. We're blending for a certain flavor profile, which I usually go to. I always say cherry pie. It's like kind of some baking spices, some warm. We have a long finish. It really, for a 90 proof 4-year-old bourbon, it's a flavor bomb. There's a lot going on with this.
Yeah, the non-chill filtration really comes through in the glass too.
Yeah.
A little bit of spice.
But I would say when it goes to what am I looking for, my favorite thing in bourbon is what we'll move on to. So, this is great because it's an everyday bourbon. It's one you can be proud to have at your house, and it's usually one that a lot of people haven't tried.
It probably works great in cocktails too, right?
Oh,
with
makes
that
an
high
amazing
rye
old
spice,
fashioned. Yeah. But I love when you get into actually tasting the different barrels and you know this, the different personality that different barrels have.
Absolutely.
Right.
And and then blending barrels together and finding that the whole can be much greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I mean, these have been sitting here opening up a little bit, and it's got like this fried dough, like jamminess to it, which is really surprising. But on top of that all, it's kind of layered with. It's kind of layered with like some of these, like the high rise coming through. It's a little bit of citrus, some black pepper there.
The interesting thing about what we're doing now with our regular bourbon, we're dumping, I'm going to say bigger batches, not compared to the big guys, but compared to when we started.
Yeah.
When we started, and it was 4 barrels, and if one barrel was, the flavor was a little bit unique or out there, like the batch was different, and there were differences batch to batch. And as we get into the what we're doing now, and you're dumping, 25 to 30 barrels at a time, you get so much more consistency in the batch, and it's
Absolutely.
Blends into a really nice, complex, drinkable bourbon.
All right, well, cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming.
Cheers. Let's give it a try. Here we go. Yeah, for me, the palate actually matches the nose. It's got that. The cherry's coming through for me now on the palate.
Yeah.
Wasn't getting it so much on the nose, but I definitely get the cherry, that jammy, like cherry qualities. Front of the palate, and then the finish on this. I love the high rye. All good spice. A little bit of black pepper, and what do you usually get? Is this your flavor profile of bourbon?
Yeah, no, it is.
Were you drinking bourbon in college? He's in Ohio State.
It's interesting. When we started the distillery, I would have said I was a bourbon and gin guy, and but I wasn't into bourbon as far as you're into bourbon now. Like I liked bourbon, and it was like, hey, I think we could make this. I think we could do it, and we knew enough about it, but we weren't experts at the time. But as we started making it and getting into it, obviously, like when you take all the money you have and you put it into something, you start working really hard, and you're like, oh man, what do we do? Like,
I better get to know this stuff.
Yeah.
and then tasting our first batch, and we're like, we got to do better than this. Let's keep going. And so when we started, it wasn't like I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. You know, we had the 5 grain, and the 5 grain had more of a nuttiness to it, and this one I think of more dark fruits on the end on the finish.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it has that the rye notes too, that spiciness, and I think all palates evolve over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as we've gone through the process and gotten a little bit better and figured out what we like a little bit more, yeah, it's kind of evolved into this, and I get really excited about what we're doing.
Getting a nice cinnamon punch too on the very end of that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Certain batches.
Yeah, certain batches have that
Definitely.
cinnamon punch. Yeah.
That's really what makes it fun, is that, there's variation. It's a natural product.
I really do like the fact that when you look, when you think of 90 proof bourbons, you kind of think low end, like real whiskey enthusiasts, they want the higher proof, they want the barrel strength.
Yeah.
They want something a little more heft to it. You have some nice bourbons out there that I talk about, the George Remus line from MGP all the time, being 94 proof, had non-chill filtration, having a nice high rye mash bill and that heft to it. And this is kind of reminding me of that a little bit. You have, the fruit forwardness up front, you have a little bit of the cherry on the back end, the fried dough, the spiciness on the back end with that cinnamon. It's a very nice, well-rounded bourbon, especially, with now that you've transitioned and you guys haven't been working with this mash bill for that long. It's pretty impressive, guys.
Thanks.
I'm digging
Thank
it.
you.
All right, so now we're going to transition to, these are the hitters that have dropped in Ohio this week. These are the Watershed single barrels that all have different flavor profiles. So which one are we starting off with here? This is
Ohio Honeycomb.
the Ohio Honeycomb.
Yes.
All right, so this one comes in at 67.1% ABV. So that's a nice high proof point. So this is where you barrel strength lovers can dig in.
Right.
to
Get
some of
excited
this.
about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But water is always a great idea too.
Yes.
Holy crap! You aren't kidding me, Honeycomb.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Dear Lord.
Oh yeah. It's almost like if you've ever bought the lavender honey. If you go to what's the great butcher and grocer right around our neighbor. Yeah. I mean they always have these really interesting like honeys and stuff like that, but.
Actually, it smells like a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios.
Right. And it's interesting as high proof as it is. It doesn't.
It does. Yeah. You don't really get a lot of the ethanol and the high proof coming off the nose. It's very sweet, very floral. Oh, I can't wait to try this one. Here you go. Oh, that's really good.
Do you get a little bit of like a warm sherry note to this one?
Oh, sherry.
Just like right
It's
at the
interesting
end.
you say that, because as soon as you say it, I'm like, yeah, cherry, but like
No,
I wouldn't have.
sherry.
No, sherry.
Sherry. No,
Sherry, yeah.
It came out cherry, but sherry.
Yeah.
But until you say it, I don't.
Right?
But
at
as
the
soon as you say it, then my
back.
brain starts thinking like, yes.
Kind of a blush.
I think the floral quality to it is what's really driving the flavor profile for me. And that honey, there's a I'm getting like a, I don't know if it's sherry. I'm getting like a little coffee note on the back end of this.
Oh.
There's like this fresh coffee bean note that's like hitting you right on the back end.
Yeah.
It's not so much like brewed coffee. It's like a fresh coffee bean. That's really interesting.
I think what you're talking about with the floral, like right when I first taste it, I get hit with that. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like I in my mind, that's the most unique thing. Well, the honey on the nose, and then that punch right at first, and then it kind of mellows out at the end.
It's really got a nice mix of flavors, and on my second sip, it's drinking a lot easier than the proof would indicate.
Yeah.
Which it's a little dangerous.
Right.
Tell me more about the single barrel program that you guys, is this, was this your first venture into doing single barrels for Ohio, and do you plan on expanding?
This is the first time we did it for
further?
Ohio, yes.
Okay.
And it was exciting, it was fun to have them come in. We've done a few single barrels here and there for customers that wanted it, but very allocated, very small number, because pretty much my plan was when we started, we'll start with 2 year, and in like 4 or 5 years, it'll all be 4 year, and we'll put 4 year on the label, but we've just been selling too much
Yeah.
And so we're just now hitting that 4-year mark with everything. And so
Exciting.
it is exciting. But so when you're looking at selling whole barrels to people, it's hard to find them. Like it's hard to get those barrels and pull them out of what we're doing. And so
Well, it's kind of a good thing. I mean,
it is.
You're selling it fast enough. You can't keep up with the production at the same time.
It's better than the alternative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having too many barrels.
And you can't.
No one's
tell.
drinking this stuff.
But so we sold a few last year, but it was really fun to have them in this year. And one cool thing with this was we did a special dinner last year where we had people into the restaurant and we had 4 barrels out and we all ate dinner and we had different cocktails paired with dinner, but then we went out and we thieved whiskey from the barrels and tried them. Everyone at the dinner, everyone in the restaurant. And then they voted on their favorite barrel, and then we took that barrel and bottled it and sold it as a single barrel last year. And it was a fun way to do it and get some buzz. Well, one of those barrels, when we were there doing that, the state asked us, hey, hold a few of these barrels back because we might want to do a pick with you. And that's that's what really got this thing going.
Yeah.
And so we waited another year, and this is what kind of the fruits of that night, or the fallout from that night, which was definitely a fun night.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, if you guys are getting this much differentiation, I mean, I haven't even smelled the other one yet. Yeah, it's completely different already. But I'm gonna add a little bit of water to the.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do
to the to that one. I'm gonna let that mingle in here as we move on to the third one here. Now the third one here is
this one has
Pilfer's Pick.
Pilfer's Pick. So
Pilfer's
tell me
Pick.
why it's named Pilfer's Pick.
There's always great stories.
It's a good
from
story.
barrel picks.
Yeah.
There's always great stories. But this, when the state came in to taste some barrels, Jim Canepa, who is a huge bourbon fan himself, and you're tasting through the barrels and everything's pulled out, and then he's like, what else do you have? And next thing you know, Greg is scaling up into the rafters.
I can tell you why. Yeah, I can tell you why.
Go ahead.
Well, so I had been out tasting barrels a few days earlier, and for another project, and I came across this one. It was like all the way on top, way in the back corner, and I was like, "This is really unique. This is really delicious." And so as we were standing around talking, and Jim was like, "Let's taste another one." I was like, you know what? Like I was like, bear with me here. Like I'll be back. And it happened that the ladder was close by, and so I jumped up there and grabbed it, and they were all laughing. I was like, I know it's worth it. Trust me, you're gonna like it. So.
And it ended up being one of the final picks. So it's straight up from the rafters.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're trying the Pilfer's Pick,
Pilfer's Pick.
which he had to climb the rafters to go find. Let's see how well, it's completely different than the first single barrel we had. This is all caramel apple to me.
Yeah. Different distillate batch. We actually had 2 different barrels from I'm saying it like you now.
Barrels.
From the ones that were picked by the state.
Yeah.
And this one and Ambry Spice were actually sister barrels.
Yeah.
So from the same batch, filled on
batch.
the same day, aged together their entire lives with 2 different flavor profiles, which is what makes it so fun.
Yeah, that's the wild part that we were talking about earlier, where it's like
That's the beauty of a single barrel.
you just fill in barrels as you go, and then you come back and taste them later, and it's all the same juice and wildly different.
So the proof on this one is 59.1, a little bit less than the Honeycomb batch.
It's so drinkable after the.
It is. You're coming off this one. This is like I could drink this all
Perfect,
day.
right.
Yeah.
So I feel like this one is very balanced. And I feel like this is such a great expression of what we're always aiming to do with our everyday batch. It's the single barrel version of what Watershed is.
This to me is a amped up version.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
This is just all.
Exactly.
It's that cherry, it's the cinnamon, it's the spice, it's all of that amped up. Whereas this Honeycomb batch is like a whole nother animal, different, but in a really good way.
Yeah.
And for us, we loved the idea with the state, with Ohio coming in, and just the awareness that this would get. There's so many people that don't know our bourbon. This was a fun one to put in there and say, hey, this is what we're doing. If you try this, because we didn't want them to try something wildly unique and then come back to this and say, well, it wasn't what I had in that bottle.
Exactly.
But this is kind of a fun way to show them, like, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this could literally be a you know, if you guys ever came out with a cask strength expression,
Right.
that was like geared towards this flavor profile.
Look at Ann, she's
I'm
like,
always excited for a new product.
she's like, cask strength. He said it. We should do it.
I have
Should be
a, I have a
another
feeling
new
she's
product.
already had, but
Right.
I'm just saying, like, if you had a cask strength expression of this that was readily available on the shelf, this is the profile you want, an amped up version of what you have
Yeah.
here, because it's delicious. It's all that cinnamon. It's like that caramel, like the caramel apple that was a little bit light on this one is really just amped up here. Yeah, it's really nice. Really impressed with the, I gotta say, with the standard version of Watershed Bourbon. Non-chill filtered, again, 90 proof. Good heft on the palate for that. And a lot of good flavor too. Good spice as well. Now these single barrel picks, if you guys, they're out there. They're out there in the market now. If you guys have a chance of grabbing, if you guys like Honeycomb and Honey Nut Cheerios and all that other good stuff, you're gonna absolutely love this batch, which is called the Ohio Honeycomb. And if you want to kind of taste an amped up version of what the best expression of Watershed is and what they're going for, this Pilfer's pick, I mean, this is just caramel apple, just a blast of cinnamon, all that great spice and really great balance too. And drinks really easy for the proof as well. So, Greg and Ann, I want to thank you for having me here and tasting through these. I'm so excited for what's coming up with you guys, so really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. It's been fun.
Yeah, so anything else that's coming out in the future you could tease us with a little bit?
I mean, this is going to be a fun year.
It is.
Yeah.
It is going to be a fun
Yes.
year.
We might have to get back together soon and taste some more stuff.
Right.
All right, so we got more things coming from Watershed. If you guys haven't been here, hope you enjoyed the video shots that you saw of the actual distillery here and the bar and the restaurant. It's a beautiful place. If you have not been here, check out Watershed as soon as you can, and I'll see you next time on the Master Drum.